Welcome back to another Star Mini Gaming YouTube video. I wanted to do a real brief video talking about the upcoming Season of War campaign for Games Workshop and the game Age of Sigmar. I've had a lot of questions about it via different Facebook groups and other such mediums, YouTube, whatever. And so I wanted to make this brief video that I can refer everyone back to as opposed to typing it out 100,000 times. And for those who maybe just don't know and haven't found someone that they can ask about the specifics yet of what really is going to be involved in the campaign. So in the campaign, you might have the question of how will GW know the results? How does all this data get input to help determine who wins this campaign of the 4 Grand Alliances? And really, there's 2 parts to the campaign to determine, for a narrative perspective, how the story will continue. There's one part that is basically the global open campaign that you have the chance to participate in. The other half of it is restricted to only the North American GW managers, who will basically be playing a game where half of them play as Order, half of them play as Chaos, and whichever side wins that will also affect the narrative in relation to this Season of War campaign. I'm not going to go into details on that because honestly that doesn't concern most players. But for the Season of War campaign and how you can impact it is you will go to your local GW or friendly local gaming store if they're participating in this, and you will receive a card like this. It's 2-sided. At the bottom on what I'm calling the front, you have the 4 different symbols representing Order, Chaos, Death, and Destruction. You will pick one of those 4 and that will be marked for your card. At the top you will put your name and you'll name your army if you'd like, and then you will put 5 units, up to 5, that you would like to add to your army, based upon a war scroll, like whether it's a hero, a monster, whatever. And if you purchase those units, each one of those that you purchase during this campaign time frame, which is 1 month, starting I believe on the 14th of this month of July, you gain 1 point towards your faction, right? Each of those 5 is worth 1 point. Then on the back side, we have 2 other things. We have right here at the top the painting, and then the dice. Basically, if you paint up a model, it does not have to be one of the models that you've purchased on the other side. It can be a model that already exists within your collection. If you completely paint up the model, then you gain a point. Now, most places, from what I understand, are going to require some kind of evidence, whether it's that they know you and they know you bought that model with them, or photographic evidence, or a receipt, or something like that, to show that you actually painted up this model within the time frame, and you didn't just have a model that was nearly done and you added some shade to it or whatever it might be. I know some places are going so far as to have like little painting events where you can come into the shop and paint it, and that's the only way that you get credit for the model for this. Different shops are doing it differently. Check with your local gaming store as to how they're approaching it. So you can earn the points for that. Again, those don't have to be models that you bought during the time of the campaign. They can be what's already in your collection. And then at the bottom, you have the 5 markers for games that you've played. Each of the 4 weeks, because this is a month-long campaign, there will be an additional special battle plan that will become available to you at your local gaming store if they follow the format that GW has outlaid for it. And basically, each one of them is a slightly different, well, not slightly, is a different game style that you can play. Some of them are kind of like invading your opponent's side of the board and while protecting your own, a certain area. One of them is like a duel between your 2 heroes, and there's special rules for how they will be fighting. There's one that's a very monster intensive game where you're basically trying to kill all of your opponent's monsters before they kill all of yours. You're not restricted to only monsters, but clearly you're going to want to bring at least a few to your army. And the final one is one that I've already play tested at my local gaming store that I'm trying to help with this campaign at. And it's basically you have a small little citadel and your opponent has a small little citadel, and you're trying to destroy theirs before they destroy yours. There are special rules for it. It has basically an armor save and a ward save of sorts, and I believe it has 15 wounds to start with, each of them. But anyways, there's those 4 special missions that you'll be playing out each week, and if you participate in those, that's obviously a good way to get 4 out of the 5 of these game playing stamps marked. At the end of the month, you'll be turning in this card to your to your local gaming store. They'll be tallying up the totals for each of the 4 factions, and they will be sending in the results to GW to help determine who is the winner of this campaign. Now, if you're participating in it, not only do you get to, basically help shape the upcoming narrative for the story of Age of Sigmar, but you also get a few additional things yourself. You'll get a pin much like this one, not this one in particular. This one has a warrior priest. It was in relation to, or I received it at the opening of GW store number 100, which is what this shirt is also from. And it was in relation, of course, to the Silver Tower box game, is what that one's from. But there are 4 pins, and depending on whichever faction you get, you will get the one that corresponds to your faction with the image of your faction's leader in it. So for Order, you'll have Alariel. For Death, you will have Nagash. For Destruction, you'll have the named orc that I always forget his name. And for Chaos, you'll have Archaon. In addition, you'll get one of the little rubber wristbands that are really thin that you see all the time. That there's, the Nike makes them and all these other companies do. Oftentimes you'll see them worn by athletes in different sports. A lot of athletic brands make them. You'll see some of those. They have all 4 of the different Grand Alliance symbols on them. You'll receive one of those. You'll receive a little punch-out card that has little markers for things like Mystic Shields and other spell effects. There's little markers that are numbered between 1 and 4 that you can use for things like damage tokens to help keep track of the wounds on certain models, or use them for like objective markers in your game to kind of number them off, things like that. And then I believe there may have been one more thing, but it was relatively small as well. But that's basically what the campaign is. You'll have those 4 battle plans available to you at perhaps 1 per week, or however your local gaming store chooses to do it. You have the 3 different ways to generate points for your army, and you will be receiving this little card, as I said before, to help kind of keep track of all that. So that's it for this video. Again, I just wanted to do a brief summary, kind of explain what is all coming out with this handbook, or with this campaign. Not every store is running it via the general handbook's points and the match play system, although I know several are. So you might also want to check with your local gaming store of what system they'll be using. Even though the General's Handbook is not available for general release yet, I believe every store that's participating in this upcoming campaign already has a copy in the store that you can go and build your force with points-wise and look at all these special rules that are there. Or you can check out a couple of videos that I will link below, such as the Tactica Tuesday video that I did with my co-host Paul, where we talked about the match play system, some of the changes to it, and went in depth a little bit into each of the factions, some of the special rules that you get. I'll also link a video that Vince Venturella, who is a great YouTube content producer, put out, that again goes in depth in different areas than what Paul and I did, but we were both on that show as well, into the match play system. And there's others available as well that you can most certainly search out, that will go perhaps even more in depth than those, or perhaps be a bit more brief. Those 2 videos are both quite long, at 2 and 3 hours respectively. But that's going to be all for this video, and until next time, this is James, and happy gaming.